Welcome to the very first full-length episode of the In Ceremony Productions podcast, Off Script. I'm Fallon Goodson, and I'll be joined in this episode by my co-host and co-founder of In Ceremony, Sky Lopez. We're so excited to kick off this journey with y'all. This podcast is where creativity, passion, and personal growth intersect, with a focus on all areas of the entertainment industry and a special spotlight on the Southeast market. Today, we're diving right into it with a truly inspiring guest, actor, director, and co-founder of Crescent City Stage, Elizabeth Newcomer. Elizabeth joins us to share her incredible journey, from her early days at NYU and UCSD to building a theater company in New Orleans. Liz brings so much wisdom about the artistic process, entrepreneurship, and the transformative power of self-discovery through tools like the Enneagram and Human Design. Whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, or someone seeking alignment and clarity, this conversation has something for everyone. Now let's go off script.
Liz, this is God speaking.
I've been waiting for you.
Wow. Welcome, Liz. Would you like to introduce yourself so we can have our listeners know what you do and who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Elizabeth, or Liz Newcomer. I am an actor and director and co-founder of Crescent City Stage, and I'm also an Enneagram and Human Design coach.
Amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as an artist up until this point?
So I went to NYU undergrad, studied acting, and lived in New York for 6 years. Then I went to grad school at UCSD to get my master's in acting, moved back to New York, and was pursuing a career in acting and waiting tables and things like that. That's when I found the Enneagram and really fell in love with that system, got certified to be an Enneagram teacher and coach, moved back to New Orleans to teach acting at my former alma mater. So I taught 6th through 12th grade acting for 8 years. And during that time, I was pursuing my career as a coach, as an Enneagram coach. And my husband and I also, that's when we started the theater company. So I left teaching to do both entrepreneurial pursuits. And then I also found Human Design and became a certified practitioner in that. So that's a little snapshot of my career. And then with Crescent City Stage, I've both acted on stage, directed, and served as the artistic director and the marketing director. And I create all of our marketing and just wear as many hats as I can, I guess.
She does it all. She does it all.
How has directing specifically impacted you and how you work with yourself and other actors?
Well, I found directing, I never intended to be a director or saw myself in that way. And it wasn't until I was an acting teacher and directed younger students, so in high school, that I really figured out what my directing approach was. And that was great because it was really low stakes. And I guess I just wanted to come from a place of compassion, because as an actor, I know what it's like to be vulnerable, and you think that you're doing your perspective of what you're giving is sometimes different from what the audience is receiving, or as the director is maybe not seeing what you think you're giving. And so there's that balance that I'm kind of interested in. How do I not... Now, I can be critical because with my Enneagram type, I go to a type 1, which is the perfectionist. This is the improver. It's part of my growth strategy, but then I can also go on the low side of it. So I have really high expectations for myself, and I can hold other people to those standards. And sometimes that's not helpful. So it's been this balance of how can I support these actors in a way that I would want to be supported, so that I'm really encouraging their best growth, and then also keeping my standards and making sure that they're delivering what I think the audience needs for this story. It's a little bit of a blend and a balance, and sometimes I mess up and I don't do it in a very compassionate way, and then I have to figure out how to come back. So those have been some of my most growth and lessons, but that have helped me become a better director. And I'll also say that there's always the don't give actors line readings, and that's really hard for me not to do. I want so badly to be like, can you just do it like this? Like, can I please just give you a line reading? I catch myself and I don't. And then I was even, because I'm directing my husband Michael as Scrooge in A Christmas Carol right now. And I even said to him this morning, we were talking about something, and I'm like, I'm not going to give you a line reading. He's like, it's okay. You can give me a line reading. He's like, don't give the other actors, but you can give it to me. And I was like, okay, could you kind of say it like this? And he's like, yeah, sure.
So what's that like working with your husband?
It's amazing. We are really good partners. We just worked for the first time as actors, as scene partners together in A Doll's House. And that was incredibly fulfilling. And it like we were playing this couple that has a lot of difficulty and is in a toxic relationship. But because we really work well as partners, we could feel really safe going where the characters needed to go to. And there was one moment on stage when he says something, and I said, well, it's because I don't love you anymore. And he says, Nora. And the way that he says it, I could imagine Michael saying, like, he said it in a way that he got teary-eyed, I got teary-eyed, and then that launched us into this really intense scene. And so we could marry the depth of our connection and chemistry with each other and then play it out on stage. So, I mean, Michael said, this is the most fun I've ever had on stage. It's the most comfortable I've ever felt. I felt really supported. So we love being on stage together. I have only directed him. He hasn't directed me. So I directed him last year in A Christmas Carol and again this year. And he's, you know, he doesn't have a lot of ego when it comes to being an actor, which is kind of impressive because I think most actors are like, I do it my way and this is my approach to the character. And he's kind of like, whatever you want me to do, like, sure, I'll try it. And so that's been great because going back to my perfectionism, sometimes I do have an ego about my approach and how I see it. And so it's been really fun. It's been a whole new aspect to our relationship that we've been able to explore.
I want to add to that because I got to see you two perform, and it was, Liz, some of the best stuff I mean, I haven't seen all of your work, but I thought you did some of your best work that I've seen on stage. And it was so beautiful to see. And you two do work really well together. I think it's so awesome. I haven't experienced that, but the fact that
We haven't, Sky.
Besides Fallon is my creative wife. Yeah, we've loved each other, hated each other, wanted to kill each other. Obviously, Fallon and I are intimately close, but not on that level. We've played it on screen, but not in real life.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. I love that you got to see it.
As far as CCS goes, what are your top 3 kind of invaluable lessons, but also could be characterized as roadblocks that you've come across when starting a company, being on the frontier when it comes to having a theater company here with equity wages?
That's a really good question. The first one comes to mind is you can't do it alone. And I think Michael and I there is a lot that we can do on our own. And yet that's never going to get us where we need to be for the community. I think that it's that you really need to be receptive for help. And part of the problem is that we don't want anyone to have to do it for free, because that's part of our business model, is that we want to pay artists. And we believe that artists are professionals and that they should be treated as such. And yet when we're just beginning, if we don't get that help, then we can't ultimately create the bigger business model to support artists. So you can't do it alone, number one. Number 2 is resilience, and that it may take longer than we expect it to. And we've talked about this recently, is that we really thought that it was just going to take New Orleans by storm. and that like everybody would jump on the bandwagon because they would get behind what we're doing. And that hasn't been our experience. We've had that, we've had enough people get it and like support us and be the wind in our sails, but it hasn't been like the real ripple effect that we thought it would be. And so that like patience and resilience to keep going has been a big lesson. And then I would say the third lesson or roadblock would be to focus on what is working, because it's really easy to talk ourselves, like what we're aiming to do is not a lot of people like follow through, because it's easy to use all of the challenges against yourself and not see what is working and what we have succeeded at, and just focus on who isn't coming to the show, who hasn't bought tickets, who hasn't supported us. And that is it's just not helpful. So like when we focus on who is present, who's along with us for this journey, it's much more enjoyable. And it's just sort of like the gratitude principle, right? And abundance mindset versus lack mentality. So I'd say those were the top 3 lessons I've learned so far.
That's such a good one. The last one, I totally resonate. And especially, I know this is going to sound so silly, but I got this program recently to see on Instagram how many people I follow but don't follow me back and stuff like that. So it was really weird. And I went through this whole list of like, this person stopped following me. Oh, this person. And I started to notice my ego. And I was just like, oh my gosh, why do I care? Why do I care so much? And it's that thing of wanting to, and we'll get into this because I know you're an Enneagram 4 and I've learned so much about this. Wanting to be loved and appreciated, but it's just part of my ego side. And I realized, Sky, the people who are still following you and still with you is because they do love you and they support you, and they're wanting and willing to stay with you throughout your growth. They're willing to see you grow through all these probably messy, because sometimes we post stuff and I go back, I'm like, why did I post? Like, and I go back to like, a little younger, maybe immature Sky. I'm like, I'm deleting this. It's just to be on my feed, And I think we go through that as business owners too, right, Fallon? Where we experience people who talk a lot, and then you see who actually sticks with you, and then the energies change between certain dynamics of people who are supporting you at first and then not supporting you, and then seeing who continues to stay with you along the ride, and focusing on that is just beautiful. Totally changes your perspective, and where are you putting your attention at? Where are you putting your energy at?
Right.
Yeah, so that's such an awesome point. So I want to go into the Enneagram. So tell us about the Enneagram and why you decided to get into coaching it, and how it's helped you as an artist, as a business owner, all the good stuff.
Awesome. Okay. So I found the Enneagram when I was at a period of my life where like just things that I was very clear on what I wanted, but I wasn't clear on why I wasn't getting what I wanted. And at the time I was about to be 30, and I really wanted to be a successful actor, and I wanted to meet the love of my life. And neither of those things were happening. And then I got dropped by my agent and manager, and I was dating this like guy who was a couple years younger than me and like was not treating me well. And I couldn't figure out, what were these patterns that were like kept getting in my own way. And then when I found the Enneagram, I went to a workshop and figured out what my type was. It illuminated all of those patterns and all of the things that were in my way. But it also showed me that the things that I was doing that I would beat myself up for and be really hard on myself for and feel like, what's wrong with you, Liz? Why do you keep doing this? Not coming from a place of compassion. It showed me it gave me like a compassionate framework to put that all into perspective and be like, oh, you're doing this. There's a reason. this is what you do. Like these are your patterns, but they're not who you are. And so who you are is deeper and greater and bigger than all of that. And so you can make a different choice. You've got the freedom to change. If this isn't working for you, these are your other options and you can try it out. You can experiment. I've always loved self-discovery. And obviously as an actor, I think we all have to be self-aware, and we've got to have that ability to have an inner observer, because we're taking on these characters and we're going inside and measuring our inner life with this character. And how are we similar? How are we different? How do I play this character? I've always had that ability, and I've always loved to figure out what makes people tick and why we do what we do. And that's what the Enneagram is. It shows you who you are, why you are that way. And then it also has that path for transformation and growth, which I'm very improvement minded and have that growth mindset. So it was all encapsulated in one tool. And it just made so much sense to me. There's not been a day since I found the Enneagram that I don't see things through that filter. And so it helps me in my relationship with myself, in every relationship I have, romantically, with my kids, with my friends, with my parents, with my siblings, with my clients. I can just see it all. And I'm like, oh, this is why you do it. And then also with my characters. Let's take Nora, for example. I felt like Nora was a type 3, which is the performer. And she's got the ability to create this mask that's, I've got it all together. And like, I'm the perfect wife and mother. And I give you, what you want. I perform. But the whole path for a type 3 is like being honest with yourself and like, who are you really? And that's part of Nora's journey. So I got to like figure that out. And then now with Scrooge, when I'm directing him, I'm like, oh, he's probably a type 5. He's hoarding his money. Because he's worried about resources. He's disconnecting from his emotions because he's afraid of them. And that's part of the Enneagram type 5 typography. And so I can see it through that perspective. And it's fun, and it never doesn't apply. It never doesn't hit. I mean, so I just love it. It's so much fun.
That's so cool. And how do you think it's helped you as a business owner?
Well, to be honest, I'm currently in the same place that I was when I was 29 and I wanted to be a successful actor and meet the love of my life. And the things that were in my way as a 4 are now showing up in my way as a business owner. And so that's the next frontier for me. Like money-wise, abundance-wise, I'm not making the living that I want to make to support myself and my family. And I'm not having the impact that I want to make. So like, I know what's possible. I know what I want. And so I'm starting to look at how are my type 4 blocks showing up in these ways. And one of them is what I was telling you, which is the tendency to focus on what isn't and what is missing and what's not enough. That's my focus of attention. That's where my energy tends to go. And so I have to really practice that gratitude, what is present, stay with what is, don't focus on what isn't. How am I already enough? How am I already doing? And it's a practice for me. It doesn't come naturally. So that, and also as a 4, I'm emotional and I do things based on my mood, and so I can be very inconsistent. And with business, if you're not showing up consistently, it's hard to build. Mm-hmm. And not so much with Crescent City Stage, but just with my Enneagram business, I'm juggling these two things, and it's hard to be consistent with one when I'm focusing on my Enneagram business, when I'm focusing on directing, and vice versa. So finding some ways, I guess what I need to do or what I would like to do is go to that type 1 where I can build in some simple practices that can support me no matter what my emotions are or if I'm in the mood for something. So that's how it's showing up currently in my businesses.
So are you saying then too that we all have, can you explain a little bit about the Enneagram? Do we all have these numbers? You're saying that you would consider yourself mostly a type 4, but then you said you could draw from a 1. So do we all have these different archetypes within ourselves and we can draw upon them? How does that work for you?
So there's 9 different personality types, and we all have aspects of every type because we're all human and we all have the potential to show up like any of the types. But you tend to lead with a type, and that has to do with what is driving you, which goes back to when you're a child and you're kind of figuring out how to survive and thrive in the world. And you're like, oh, this seems to work. And then because of the way that we are and the way that our brains work is that we tend to just repeat what worked. And then the things that didn't work or the things that we didn't try kind of like move into our shadow. And as a 4, it's like, oh, I have to be special and unique because that's what makes me stand out. That's what gets me love. Or for Fallon, who's a type 6, I have to be prepared for anything that could possibly come up. Because that
is so Fallon.
Sorry to call you out, Fallon, but like that's what helps her feel safe. So like that's just going to come to the forefront. When I was talking about the 1, it's there's a star, a 9-pointed star. Enneagram means 9 and gram means a figure that's drawn. So the lines that connect you to other types, those are the ones that you tend to go to in stress or in growth. So they're called your resource points. So you can access them. You really can access all of those, but like you tend to just gravitate towards those types. So you have connections to we don't have a connection to a type 6, but we're called lookalike types. So whereas Fallon is intense in the mind, she's got like her thoughts are very fast. We're intense with emotions. So 4s and 6s can blend well together because we are not afraid of intensity. We're like, yeah, you're intense with your thoughts. I'm intense with my emotions. Like, let's go. Like it's not scary, right? So yes, I hope that I know it can be a complicated system, but I hope that peaks inside.
We'll finish off with the Enneagram, and then I want to talk about human design because I think that's also very fascinating and how you also use that. Enneagram, you've used it to relate and understand certain characters. And I know you talked a little bit about it with directing. Can you maybe explain a little bit about your process as to how you use it for character building and directing other actors?
I'll make this distinction because when we talk about human design, what the differences are, but the Enneagram is about your personality and about your habitual patterns of thinking, feeling, and doing. Mm-hmm. And then what's available to you. So your essential way of being if you didn't have those habitual patterns. So most every character has a growth journey, right? And so they probably have at the beginning of the play, they have a habitual way of being. And so then part of their journey may be part of their personality type journey, like I was talking about with Nora. And same with Scrooge. So part of his journey is like hoarding his money. And I would say for a type 5, they hoard because there's this fear of being depleted. Like they're like, whether it's time, energy, space, like they somehow don't have enough, so they have to hold on to it. So it's that lack mentality. It's not abundance mindset. Also with emotions, 5s are like, oh, emotions could deplete me energetically. So like, I'm not going to let myself feel emotions. Scrooge kind of shuts down his emotions. They feel scary to him. And then what he learns over the course of A Christmas Carol is how his emotions are not be afraid of them, and that and the power of giving, and how like we know this with energy, right? Like when you give energy, you get energy. But if you're holding on to your energy, time, money, right? Money is just energy. So he's holding on to that because he's afraid that, so he kind of learns to give, and that's his growth. So, and that's the type 5 journey. So that's how I would use it, is looking at those real specific patterns and understanding. I don't think you could give me a character where I wouldn't be like, oh, okay, this is why that character is that way, by using the Enneagram. So like I could use, Stanley or Blanche, really anything. I mean, Wizard of Oz, Wicked, she's probably an 8.
Who would Blanche be?
Blanche is a 4. Yeah. course she's a 4. Tennessee Williams likes to write a lot of Enneagram 4s because he was a 4, I think.
So great for actors, because I think actors are always seeking some kind of, foundation to help them when they're building characters. And it might not always look the same, but it's so great to have things like that ground you and give you a place to start.
Yeah, I was recently reading a book even, and she was talking about she had a tendency to overanalyze and think about worst case scenarios. I'm like, oh, she's a 6. Even when I'm reading her, I feel like get her at a deeper level.
That's awesome. That would be a cool book, character building through the Enneagram for actors.
It is a great idea, because then you can give examples of movies or Harry Potter or other characters that we all know really well. I always use Sherlock Holmes as a type 5, and then just an easy, quick way to, I know Fallon's process when you're working on a character, you kind of go super in depth, and some people write full stories out or full backstories, and your Enneagram is like your entire backstory, your entire why.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then when I feel like I do character building, it's why does he want to do this? Why does this person want to do this? Why do they feel, oh, they must feel so alone that this is what motivates them. Yeah. I go from the feeling of why they do something. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Oh, well, I think that would be awesome. Honestly, it would help, I think, actors just to be able to decode characters in a way.
It's so hard to start from scratch sometimes on a character. And my normal process is, go through and write down what the character says about themselves, what they say about others, what others say about them. And that's a way to really make that even more intricate, and that helps fill in some of those gaps.
So I'm doing corporate workshop next Tuesday. And so I've been doing these typing sessions with the people who are part of the team. There's ways that types show up physically, and there's a way that they communicate. So there's a way that they talk. So even some of those physical characteristics or the way that your character speaks, you can already use the Enneagram to kind of figure out some of that. Like a type 1 is going to be very buttoned up, very black and white, wears really structured clothes, is perfect, probably is thin. So there's ways that you could figure out, how do I stand? If I'm a type 1, I'm going to have a really good posture, things like that.
That's awesome. I think this would be amazing.
My mind is like, let's go brainstorm.
You just have to give me a special thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Special thank you.
I'll give you both of you.
Oh, okay. I wanted to be able to hop in really quickly about human design. How did you find human design? Why do you love it? How do you think it helps people through their journey? How has it helped you?
So human design, I think I found it when I was listening to Lacey Phillips with To Be Magnetic, and she was talking about it. And this was, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And so I was interested, and then I dove into it. Got a reading, and at first it wasn't quite landing for me. I couldn't quite figure out. It's a really in-depth, complicated system, and it takes astrology, the chakras, Kabbalah tree of life, the I Ching. I feel like I'm even for quantum mechanics. It takes like a bunch of different systems, synthesizes them all together, and it's based on your birth date, time, and place. And it shows you a map of your energy and what you're here to give, and then where you're prone to being conditioned. And so when I really got into it, it's because I felt like, based on my Enneagram type, I was comparing myself to other people and trying to do things their way. And I wasn't getting the success or the results that they were getting. And so human design is like, no, this is your way of doing it. This is your way. Don't worry about anybody else. And I'm just obsessed with that idea, is like staying in your lane and being, and this goes back to my type 4 of like wanting to be unique and wanting to celebrate all of what makes us unique. Human design really does that. And it gives you this blueprint. And it's like, this is, this is what you're here to share. This is where you have energy. This is where you don't have consistent energy. And so you don't need to beat yourself up for it. So it takes the strengths and challenges, and it just makes them even more specific. And I guess there's also, like, for my type, I'm a generator. It shows you how to make decisions that are aligned. So everything's about like being in tune with yourself, being aligned, doing it your way. And whether that's how you structure your day or structure your routine or how you communicate, or it's endless and it's so much fun. So that's how I use it a lot with myself, just in terms of when I'm not using my energy in a way that I'm designed to, I feel frustrated. And so that's kind of like my stop sign. When I feel frustrated, I'm like, ooh, what am I doing that's not using my energy in a way that I'm supposed to? I can map backwards and be like, oh, I said yes to this and it was a no for me. And that's how I personally can get back in alignment, is looking at my yeses and my nos and getting super clear on that. Yeah, it's just really supportive with my energy. I help my clients do that as well. And in terms of acting, I haven't necessarily thought about characters from a human design perspective, because I just use the Enneagram more for that. But I can tell, in working with people and how they operate, that what they have to give is different. Yeah.
That's really cool. Does the human design also help you with finances and how you use your finances?
Yeah, so there's the part of your chart which is your Jupiter, and so that it takes, that tends to be how you create abundance in your life, and how you attract and manifest. And so my gate, and that takes the hexagrams, the I Ching, and my gate is in 18. And so what it is how I'm supposed to create abundance is by showing people what isn't working for them and helping them get aligned in what does work. And I can link that up with using the Enneagram. Okay, this pattern is not serving you anymore. This isn't working for you. How can you focus on what is working? And then I also have to model that myself. So it kind of shows you that way, but it has a lot to do with timing too. I just did today, y'all, it was the coolest thing. I bought this Chat GPT prompt where you put in all of your astrological details and all of your human design details, and it spits out exactly what you are designed to do. And it was insane. I was geeking out of it most of the morning, and I was just like, oh my God, because so much of it I'm already on brand. I'm already doing, and I was like, oh my God, I literally have this on my website. I literally say what it says, and it says exactly how you're designed to manifest money and what makes you most magnetic. And so, yeah, again, I these tools are just really fun. They just make life so fun. Yeah. Let's dig in, let's figure it all out. But it's awesome. I have a 28-page business plan. Thanks to that.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, I think that brings us to the end.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me on here and letting me talk about the things that I am so passionate about. And it's just such a pleasure. And I appreciate y'all.
Always love hearing your beautiful, wise words that you have to share. So thank you for doing that and sharing your love and your knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Off Script. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like or subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us. Every like, follow, and share helps us to grow this community and bring you more meaningful conversations with creators making an impact. Thank you again for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode of Off Script.